Ireland and England, folks. Six Nations 2022. 32 points to 15. Ireland get a bonus point win away from home at Twickenham, although it's over a 14-man England side who get a red card within the first minute. We're going to go through some key events, some stats, and you guys can let me know your thoughts on the game. I should say I didn't watch it live because I've had COVID, still have COVID. Slept about 10 hours last night, so still focusing on the kind of rest and recovery. But once I got up, took some paracetamol and ibuprofen and whatnot to kind of chill things out a bit. I've sat down and watched this game. Still haven't seen Scotland and Italy yet. I'll watch that after this. But yeah, I watched England and Ireland. Obviously, the big talking point is going to be the red card with Charlie Ewels in the first minute. Kind of unfortunate one. It's an upright tackle. He tackles James Ryan and it's head-on-head contact. I know that's the kind of red card that a lot of people don't like because they don't see it as like intentional, but you got to get the intention part, I guess, out of your head because it doesn't matter what part of your body you hit someone else's head with because it's going to be a red card. As soon as I saw that, I thought that's going to be red, and sure enough it was. I mean, and James Ryan has had issues with concussion in the past, and he doesn't come back after his Itoje. So that's the kind of thing that could still end your career. So there's a reason World Rugby's trying to stamp that out, whether you like it or not. I know, as I said, some people don't agree with the whole head-on-head reds, but yeah, it was a red card. So England have to play the majority of this game, pretty much the whole game, with a man down. That being said, they do a pretty good job of it. Ireland do get the first try. James Lowe win. It's kind of helter-skelter stuff going both ways. Ireland tear down the left wing, Van der Fleer and Lowe and whatnot getting involved. So 8-0 lead for Ireland. They missed the conversion. I mean, they had taken a penalty first when Ewels got red carded. So yeah, at that point, like when it's a point a minute for Ireland, they got an extra man. It looks like they're just going to run away with the game. But things kind of settle down a bit. England win a ridiculous number of penalties at the scrum. I mean, the first one Ireland get, and then the rest of them are pretty much all England. I mean, to the point where later on, like in the second half, the ref says to Ireland, you know, you're probably going to get someone binned here if you don't clean up your act at scrum time. So, yeah, it was an unusual one because the Irish scrum is usually pretty strong. But the ref was seeing English dominance. So, yeah, a lot of free kicks as well. There's like 4 free kicks in this game and like 20-plus penalties. So the ref's whistle was pretty busy. And yeah, to make matters worse for England, Tom Curry goes off after like 14 minutes. He gets injured. They've got to bring on Alex Dombrandt, who's had COVID recently as well. So he's not 100%. But yeah, pretty disruptive start for England. That being said, the scrum does get on top. They kick a penalty to make it 8 points to 3. The momentum starts to shift England's way. Sam Simmonds smashes James Lowe when he's carrying the ball. England's maul goes close, but Cian Healy does well to disrupt Jamie George at the back of that thing. So, yeah, England did actually manage to get some momentum. But, yeah, Ireland would just get smashed in the penalty count. I forget what the count was, but it was pretty lopsided by halftime. Marcus Smith missed the penalty on like 24 minutes, but they managed to get one a couple of minutes later when Sexton was offside in front of Ringrose's kick. So it's 6 points to 8. It's looked like it's going to be a pretty close one at halftime. But Keenan, kind of out of nowhere, manages to get a try for Ireland. Like, they haven't had a lot of momentum. And the halftime stats, I think, in possession and territory is pretty tight. Yeah, but yeah, Ireland finally managed to get a free kick at line-out time. And then from there, Henderson taps it. They go through a few phases. They get advantage. And then they blow up for the penalty. And then Gibson-Park taps it, sends over Keenan, who goes over for a try. So it looks like it's going to be 15-6 at halftime. But it's another issue for Ireland, I guess, in this game. The restarts were a bit soft. Nowell manages to catch the restart, so the Irish guys, I think it was Henderson, gave away a pretty cheap one at the breakdown. So 15 points to 9 at halftime with Smith slotting that one. Second half, it was a bit weird. Like, is it just me, or were Ireland like forcing a lot of passes that they didn't need to force? Like, ridiculous, not even 50-50 offloads, like 70-30. Like, Tyg Furlong falling in a tackle, offloads to Bundee, who ends up trying to have to pick it up around his ankles, knocks it on. Like, you've literally got one more man on the field. Just kind of ease back, go through your phases, work the space. Eventually it'll happen, right? But no, they were just trying to score now, I guess. And it was a little bit frustrating. Plus the handling. I mean, sometimes it's the passes that cause the handling to be poor. But yeah, then when they're getting pinged at scrum time, not ideal as well. But you do have to give credit to England's defence. They were shooting up the line really well. They were scrambling to cover the space that was there. So, I mean, eventually, I guess they tired out a bit at the end. But you do have to give credit to them for that. Marchant won a couple of penalties at the breakdown. Jamie George was celebrating like mad. 15 points to 12 when England slot a penalty. And they were, to be fair, England were peppering the high balls, right? Hugo Keenan is great at catching the high balls. But man, the English chasers would just monster him. Someone would tackle him, the next guy in would just try to rip the ball off him at the breakdown or just drag him into touch. So, yeah, the Irish didn't find an answer for that initially. And it ends up being 15 points apiece when England got another scrum penalty. But it seems like maybe that's where the momentum shifts back for Ireland. Maybe it's a bit of a wake-up call they needed. Maybe the English guys start tiring a bit. But, yeah, Doris... And to be fair, there was one moment where I thought, maybe England are going to do this because Doris has a big line break. Ben Youngs, who's come on, does well to bring him down. And then all Doris has to do is pass it to Murray, but somehow the pass doesn't stick. It was... my commentary team said it was like one of the incidents from the Wales game yesterday, where they kind of blew a try. It was pretty much a sure thing try, but they couldn't get it. So, sometimes when you miss that kind of key chance, you don't get another one like it, you know what I mean? But it ends up not being the case anyway. But, yeah, Ireland go like 13 phases. Eventually, they're playing more sensible rugby. They're not throwing the crazy offloads. And eventually, England couldn't scramble for so long. Conan ends up going over on 72 minutes. It's 25-15. And then a couple of minutes later... Mull try, Beelam goes over, bonus point. So it's gone from being a little bit hairy to, 32-15. And to be fair, Maro Itoje had got penalised at the breakdown when England were on defence. The ref initially had his cards out, but they said it was just a penalty. But that was maybe the momentum shifter because Ireland go back in front 15-18 and then they score a couple of tries. So, yeah, bit of a weird game. Like, I mean... If you're Irish, you definitely look at 32-15 away at Twickenham. Like Johnny Sexton had said it after the game. He couldn't remember the last time they got a bonus point win in England. I mean, you got to be pretty chuffed with that. Keeps them alive. They got a chance in the final week. The run meters 554 to 201. That's dominant. They got a 56% possession, 57% territory. And the second half, it was like 60 plus in both counts because they were pretty even in the first half. But I mean, penalties conceded is 15-8. A lot of those at scrum time with Ireland conceding more. Knock-ons is 8-2 to Ireland. Turnovers conceded, which includes knock-ons, is 16-5. Offloads is 11-4. So Ireland have got all those bigger numbers, but I honestly think sometimes you didn't need to chuck all those offloads. I mean, maybe it's just being a bit bold, but yeah. Clean breaks is 6-1. So Ireland got a little good stats, maybe as they should do, having the extra man, but yeah, England make 147 tackles to Ireland's 85. Ireland's defence is like 92% with their tackling. So it's kind of no wonder England were having to pepper those kicks at times because they weren't getting a lot of pay ball in hand. Simmonds has 15 from 17 tackles, 33 run meters, a clean break and 2 defenders beaten. James Lowe has 186 run meters, which is phenomenal. 2 clean breaks and 6 defenders beaten. So yeah, like I said, it's a bit of a weird game just because of the red card. It ended up being an entertaining enough game despite the fact that there was an early red card. Like, I know there's the talking point about 20-minute red cards and whether they should be a thing. This is the kind of situation where the 20-minute red card is designed to help, I guess, with the spectacle. But I think you still got a spectacle without it, right? And I guess you could argue that having this kind of punishment means... hopefully guys are going to adjust their tackle technique. But anyway, Ireland are still alive in the Six Nations with this bonus point win. They have a chance as long as England can do them a favour next week. Remember, Ireland are at home to Scotland and England are away to France. So all Irish fans will be cheering on the English next week for sure. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on the game. Like I said, sorry I didn't watch it live. I was too busy sleeping and recovering, but yeah, feeling a bit better now the sun's up and I've got some fresh air and whatnot. You guys take care of yourselves and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.